If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba. Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like they don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Hey, Skiba News Nation family, we have two very special guests with us today. Jake, do you want to introduce them and have them introduce themselves?
Yeah, we're welcoming Witsit, Gets It, and Zen Garcia. What's up, guys? Thank you for joining us.
How's it going?
Good to be here.
All right. Let's start off with one of you each and then introduce yourselves to the audience. And, of course, today we're going to be talking about biblical cosmology, the realm we live in. There's been some controversial experiments supposedly proving one way or the other. And I think we're going to question that in today's discussion. But let's start with Witsit. Can you break us into what brought you into looking into these topics? How maybe, you possibly were involved with that very experiment that's causing all the drama. What's up, Witsit?
How's it going? Let's see. I heard about Flat Earth in like 2016 in a rap song by B.O.B. And I thought it sounded kind of crazy, obviously, but I looked into it because he was right about a lot of other stuff. Fast forward, I guess 9 years almost now, which is wild. Yeah, the Earth is just not what we've been told. It's not a spinning globe. It's a stationary plane. It's enclosed. Actually, Rob Skiba was a huge part of me really starting to kind of refine my understanding in terms of biblical cosmology. So I kind of found out about it. The girlfriend I had at the time wasn't particularly interested. Like, she was like, oh, she just kind of defaulted to whatever I thought, but she wasn't that interested. But then I really kind of started looking at it compared to the scriptures, and then I got into the ether, and that's when I really kind of got obsessed with trying to figure out what's going on. So that got me into it, and then Bob from Globebusters talked me into coming online and talking about it. I didn't want to. I actually went back and forth with him quite a bit. He talked me into it, and here we are. And yeah, the trip to Antarctica has been interesting to say the least. But we did go to Antarctica in December, and it was very beautiful. It was very incredible. Everyone should see it, but you don't even really need to get off the plane. But it's cool to see it. And then, yeah, I just created this huge controversy, obviously, within the community. A lot of fallacious reasoning involved in all that. But, yeah, sun did a circle. Earth still doesn't curve. Earth doesn't move. Pretty simple stuff. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I just think, I guess, to wrap it up, I would say my take on the whole thing is kind of the whole journey is we were told that the Earth is a certain thing. Now we know all these answers. You just kind of step back and like, okay, let me just suspend all this belief and reset and look at the evidence. And you're going to end up accepting that the Earth is not a spinning ball. So
Thank you. All right, Zen. How about you? What got you into this, and what are some of the things you've done over the years to really, test the truth of it?
Well, I'm a radio show host on Revolution Radio, and I used to do shows with a good friend named The Hijacker. And when he came to discernment on this particular topic, he kept calling into my show every night and challenging me to look at this issue, which I thought was absolutely ludicrous, as most of us uh, generally do. And I had that whole knee jerk reaction of, I don't want to waste my time examining this. I like to be productive with my research and investigation. And so I put it on hold for a long time until he basically challenged me. I'm teaching all of these alternative truths, and I'm asking my own listening audience to keep an open mind. It was either be a heretic or go into it with open mind and examine new possibility, which is what I did. And when I did that, I quickly found that curvature was non-existent. That was something that I could quickly see. And as I spoke about in the court case I had over this issue, 4 of the particular discernments that I brought forth was that you could see Oahu from Kauai at 100 miles distant when there should be a mile of curvature between the viewer and the other island. And this is a daily occurrence that people are able to see this. And so it's not a mirage, it's not a fabrication. In similarity to the whole issue with Joshua Nowicki and how the weatherman cited that his being able to take a photo of the Chicago skyline from the shores of Lake Michigan at 60 miles distant when there should be a half a mile of curvature between the viewer and the city, making being able to see the fullness of the buildings impossibility. And yet this is something that also can be experienced and seen, as Jeremiah, your father, Rob, went up there to meet with Rick Hummer and actually took a boat, chartered a boat from the Lake Michigan shores all the way to the city of Chicago, the skyline, and back, confirming that this is not a mirage.
We're actually seeing a mirage.
A mirage.
To go on Lake Michigan and determine whether or not the Chicago skyline, as viewed from the other side of Lake Michigan, was in fact a mirage.
More people need to get out there and question why they believe what they believe. Just get out there and start doing tests for yourself, because when you see it for yourself, that's a game changer.
Rick, what are you trying to prove to people?
A mirage.
I'm not proving anything. The water does it on its own. By the way, we are literally standing right where Rob, Steve, and I stood
42 times 42
when we did our test.
A mirage. A mirage. A mirage. A mirage. A mirage. A mirage. What you're seeing here is a mirage. You typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
Best explained as simply a mirage.
So, because Joshua Nowicki was able to see the Chicago skyline from the state park that he was in, and by the way, he was at about, I believe the elevation was about 200 feet, and he was somewhere in the vicinity of about 53 miles away, according to the Channel 57 news report. And depending on where he was in the park, looking toward the west, he was looking on a heading of about 260 degrees to the west. I bought the Nikon Coolpix P900 specifically for the purpose of doing that test. Wasn't able to do it when I wanted to back in 2015, so I started doing some other things with that camera, which I'll show you in this video also. I mean, you have to believe that this entire city was thrown up into the sky and perfectly symmetrical, straight up and down, clean lines and all that stuff.
Here on the shores of Lake Michigan at Warren Dunes State Park, just 50 miles towards our west is Chicago. However, we can't see the skyline, at least from this vantage point.
So I met up with my friend Rick Hummer, and we recreated one of the experiments that got many people investigating flat Earth.
I'm not proving anything. The water does it on its own.
Two other things that I brought up in the court case and the documents was that you could see the Statue of Liberty also from New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York, in excess of 60 miles as well, which there should be a half a mile of curvature between the viewer and the statue. And yet people are able to see it on its pedestal and where the island meets the sea. And that should be impossibility as well. And yet this is a regular occurrence. And the fact that engineers that create canals, bridges, railroads, they don't in any manner take into consideration curvature when building these constructs. And they also try to keep them as level as possible in constructing these huge structures. And so those things made me go back to the scriptures and review it with new eye and open mind. And that's exactly what I did. And when I did so, I quickly came to understanding that the things that we see, like the whole issue with Joshua being given the authority to stop the earth and the sun and the moon in their movements. And that doesn't make sense in a heliocentric worldview, where it's the supposed spin of the earth and its orbit around the sun that is causing, according to this worldview, the changing of the seasons and also the shift of day into night and sunset and sunrise. And so the other thing that quickly led me to challenge and to second guess all that I had been taught in regard to worldview was that water must be contained in a basin, and that if you pour it on a ball, it will drip off and it will gather at its lowest point, pooling together, and it will settle in a level. And so those simple things challenged my mindset and made me dig into and investigate this topic in greater capacity. And so doing so, we did the laser test, as I'm sure most of you have as well. And when you do that with a simple laser, a couple of mirrors, and a stretch of water that is in excess of 2 or 3 miles, you find that curvature is non-existent in that it does not even declinate at 8 inches per mile, much less inversely squared. And so these facts alone made me come to understand that what we have been taught about the globe and about the earth being a sphere, and also about its moving in excess of 1,037 miles an hour, which is faster than the speed of sound or a bullet shot from a pistol, is absolutely ludicrous. And so looking back now at how we've all been indoctrinated into the Copernican heliocentric worldview, it's so odd to me that they were able to pull this off and able to get us all to buy into this belief system.
Well, you pretty much covered all of the bullet points, Zen, and now everybody should definitely believe the Earth is not a spinning monkey ball religion, right? Thank you for going into all the details, guys. And for everybody listening, obviously, there's sincerity here. And so, just being cognizant of the fact that people watching this right now who are not biblical cosmologists and don't believe the earth is flat, hopefully you will see the intellectual value of listening to the conversation of, what brings people to actually believe, something contrary to the mainstream opinion. And just a quick backdrop for myself and my involvement with Flat Earth. I produced a documentary with Now You See TV called What If the Earth Was Flat that came out in 2019.
Bottom line, what if? What if they're not crazy? What if there's some truth to what is being exposed? What if NASA has lied to us about some things? What if the ancients were onto something and modern scientists are trying to hide a creator? What if we have been indoctrinated in some things falsely? Have I actually seen the curvature with my own eyes? Have you? What if some of the conspiracies that have led people to this belief are factual? Could there be official documentation supporting the theory? But what about the moon landings? How could they have lied? Wouldn't this be a conspiracy that's too big to hide? Everyone knows the Earth is round, right? I don't want to be anti-science, so what is the evidence? Who would be in charge of the deception? What if the Earth is flat?
I went to all of the FEIC conferences since the first big one in 2017. And I went out there and went with Rick Hummer to the location on Lake Michigan, same place where Rob and him went out to, witness the horizon of Chicago. And I also saw it with my own eyes using long distance photography. I even sent one of my lasers on a trip with Rick to be used for some of the experiments. So I want people to recognize the people that, we're talking here, Witsit and Zen, are not just theorizers, but people who've put into practicality real experimentation. And I think that's super important because truth is not just something that's assumed, something that you believe. Truth is something that's testable, it's repeatable. And before I pass it over to Jeremiah to kind of get into some of our questions, I wanted to start off with a verse from 2 Thessalonians. It's 2 Thessalonians 2, 9 through 11. And it says, "The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan, with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing, because they refuse to love the truth and to be saved. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion that they may believe what is false." And so, when it comes to this topic of what was witnessed down in Antarctica, there was a 24-hour sun. I mean, if we truly love truth, there shouldn't be a problem admitting things that we can observe and see. However, the crux of the whole issue is people are jumping to the conclusion that what has been witnessed in the final experiment, for example, has already ended the debate. And I think that's the biggest issue with kind of the drama with what Witsit's dealt with. And from Zen's side, it's amazing. You guys are hearing somebody, in fact, I think the only person who has ever won a court case siding with the flat earth perspective.
Recently, a judge presiding over a civil court case awarded a flat earther named Zen Garcia a ruling in favor of Zen against someone trying to debunk the flat earth. And here's the documentation. Zen had offered a $15,000 reward to somebody that could demonstrate measurable curvature, and the guy failed, and once again, it was ruled in favor of the flat earther. This is in an actual court. What? Wow.
Somebody came and sued Zen for his competition to prove whether the earth is flat or not. And Zen won his court case. It was two. It was actually two. They brought you back and you won, again, right? Or how did that settle, Zen?
Yes, we had a court case in the magistrate court here in Barrow County, and I was sued over the contest that because after I came to learn this information, we put up a bounty of $8,250, and it ballooned to $15,000. And I just basically challenged anybody in the world to provide 2 scientific repeatable experiments that verified curvature according to the calculation that was determined by the formula for determining such, or that the earth was moving not even in 1,037 miles an hour, but over 100 miles an hour, that there was any movement to the earth at all, and that they had to be 2 independent, repeatable experiments that anybody in the world could conduct and also come to the same conclusions upon. And if they were able to do that, then we would have rewarded them the $15,000. And so this individual, who is a Microsoft engineer, William Thompson, he sued me, and there's a whole video about that. And I won the case, and then immediately 2 days later, he appealed it. And so then we had to go to the Superior Court here in Winder, Georgia, Barrow County. And we were going to have to argue the whole case again. It was pushed forward one month because I had to go and speak at the Flat Earth conference there I believe it was in Dallas this time. And when I came back, he had been advised by his lawyers, which I was representing myself, but he had a whole panel of lawyers, and he tried to get all of these scientific professors, a professor at UGA, all these different individuals to come in and give their so-called expert testimony. But in reviewing the documents and all the things that I had brought out in the first case, they decided to drop the case. And also, I think the fact that I was going to sue him for slander and defamation in the second and the third case was something that, the pushback made him fold and not want to continue on with, the appeals process. So, yeah. And then if anybody is interested in the court documents, they are available. I have a transcript, a PDF copy of the transcript myself, and would gladly make that available. People can email me or contact me through sacredwordpublishing.com.
Awesome. Well, I was just curious what you guys, both of you, your opinions are on these so-called flat earthers that are now coming out and saying, I'm not one anymore, and that you should turn. Do you think they're doing it for attention? Do you think they're doing it just to stay relevant? And that's kind of how I see it. It's my opinion. But what do you guys think?
Austin, I'll let you answer first, and then I'll.
I think if someone's coming out and saying that they've been a flat earther for any extended period of time and that now they think it's a globe because of the Antarctica trip, then they just didn't really understand. They didn't properly get to the conclusion that it was flat in the first place. Mm-hmm. Or, yeah, maybe there's something else going on. They don't want to be associated with all the kickback or whatever. I don't really know. But I have found that quite a few people didn't maybe fully understand kind of the proper logical avenue to understanding that it is flat, which is, falsifications independent of replacement. There's a positive claim on the table. There's a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball flying through space. You go and test that positive claim by physically measuring the surface, physically measuring for motion, and it isn't there. So we falsified that positive claim. So like the default position, right, is that it's a stationary plane, and we see hundreds of miles, and we have radio waves, microwaves, all kinds of evidences. So that's like the logical parameters. People are like, oh, well, then what is if it's not that globe, what is it? And we don't know. We can't freely and privately traverse it. The scriptures say we'll never know the dimensions of the earth actually says he'll turn his back on his people once you find out the full dimensions of the earth, which means that you'll never know them. So I guess some people just kind of had a model in their mind and they reified it. The same thing that we had happen with the globe. And when the evidence didn't match within that model, then they were like, oh, well, then it can't be flat. And they defaulted back to this paradigm where all these answers were crafted for them. That's kind of the only way I've wrapped my mind around certainly some of the people without saying any names. I think that is what it is. They needed a model, and that's just like logically improper in the first place. So maybe that's the explanation. If there are any other alternative motives, I don't know. So I probably won't speculate too much on them because I wouldn't know for sure what they are. But yeah, I don't know. It's very perplexing, to be honest, because if you were to fully understand all the physical evidences over the course of the years, it seems very odd that you would suddenly not know them, suddenly not account for them, suddenly dismiss them, and just say, okay, we'll go back to reifying these unfounded beliefs that have been falsified. So I don't know.
Now, I believe we're talking about the same person, but the only or the big reason why I found out about it is because Jake sent me something that this particular person said that my dad would not would agree with him, and I was like, okay, first of all, you don't know you never knew my dad. I can show the text messages, and it just irritated me. So I bet you guys feel the same way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
somebody
crazy.
to speak,
You got it, brother.
I was just going to say, yeah, for somebody to claim to know what somebody else would say or believe, yeah, I don't think that's right. And of course, I'm not going to, in any manner, attack anybody. People are, if they want to change their minds or opinion, that's fine. But it seems weird to me, odd, that anybody that has researched this topic in the manner that some of these individuals that have now jumped ship, um, it's really weird because no matter what was seen in the sky, and of course, I'm not claiming in any manner to know all the answers as far as heavenly motion, and I know what the Book of Enoch says, and the way that I was able to come to discernment and understanding on all that. But no matter what we see and what was seen down there, it does not in any way negate the fact that curvature is non-existent and that water cannot adhere to a ball and it must be contained within a basin. Those two things are ample evidence and repeatable. Experiments using the laser pointers, mirrors, that's a smoking gun. Anybody can go and do this for themselves. In fact, anybody that comes and asks me and challenges me or that wants to debate me on anything, because I've had a lot of individuals that are part of the alternative truth movement that say their families were in black ops or part of, Stargate missions or whatever. All of that, again, you can go and confirm for yourself doing a simple test that curvature is non-existent and that you can see skylines, city skylines, structures like lighthouses, the Statue of Liberty, different things in excess of what should be possible according to the calculation of curvature, or even at 8 inches per mile square. The way that Samuel Robotham did the Bedford level experiment, these things can be confirmed, repeated, and done anywhere in the world by anybody with just a short amount of time. And so for people to be hardcore researchers, investigators, and to have this knowledge, but then based on what they've seen or what they saw down there in the final experiment, to just abandon all of that research and the years of being dedicated to standing on this truth is suspect to me. And of course, I'm not going to, in any manner attack anybody. Of course, people can change their minds, but I just don't understand how people can deny these two things. And these two facts negate the possibility that the earth is a sphere or a ball. And I did a whole show on, after this came out, called Unshaken, Why I Still Believe in Biblical Cosmology. And in that show, I explained how it is, in my opinion, that we see the stars and all of the Sigma Octanus, all of that, the possibility of the sun moving, 24 hours in the opposite direction. I believe all that has to do with perspective and the way that the firmament works on that perspective. And it's something that, it would take a whole show to go into, but I do invite people to review that show because I did a lot of visuals and brought it forth. People can take a half-dome magnifying glass, and if you use it and look through it as if you're looking at star trails, it also shows perspective that in the lower half of this particular magnifying glass, which is in the shape of a dome, or what we would see as the firmament, that in the lower half, once you go past the equator, what is the celestial equator, that because of perspective and because of the extreme largeness of the firmament, once you pass the equator, that it visually gives in perspective the way, the motion that the luminaries are moving in the opposite direction. But that is not the truth as we see it in reality. Because the reality is that all of the stars, all of the luminaries, all the constellations, all of the Mazzaroth, they are all moving at the same rate of speed, not around the sun, but around Polaris, which is the one fixed star of the celestial night. And the fact that navigators have utilized Polaris to determine true north for thousands of years, and the fact that the constellations have maintained this pattern, this structure over thousands of years, in my opinion, is also proving to us visually, and what we see in the reality of the night sky, is that we are not a planet moving in orbit around the sun, as the sun also orbits some galactic center, and that the Milky Way in itself is also moving in circle at extreme rates of speed around some universal center. Because if that were the case, being able to see the stars in the same way every night, even for 1 year, that would be impossible. And so we have to consider parallax. We have to consider, star trails and how the luminaries move over the course of an evening, over a week, over a month, over a year, over a decade, over a century, over a millennia. Because if the Earth, the sun, and our galaxy were all moving at these extreme rates of speed, what we see every night would not be possible.
I want y'all to take a look up above you at the Visco ball. You see what's going on? Look on the wall. Even a disco ball performs parallax. The stars don't.
Well put. Well put. Really, I think whenever you put the preponderance of evidence together,
it's more, the flat earth theory is more a theory of what the earth isn't rather than something that it is. It's kind of a coming from a place of negatives. When we disprove the model that we've all been taught, it leads to the question of what does it actually look like and how does the system actually operate. And I think what people confuse, and sometimes when they get confused when they claim to be flat earthers, is when they put forward models that are just as fantastical and summed up out of their butt as, the globe model. And so I had a question for Witsit. I know obviously you're a fellow wizard killer, and I wanted you to maybe break down the spellcraft of the final experiment and just the why they titled it that and how it's used to already set up a false dichotomy.
Yeah. So, well, it isn't actually an experiment. Like, it isn't a scientific experiment. It's merely observational. But yeah, they obviously called it final to imply finality, meaning that it would be conclusive and it would show one way or the other. I would say they already knew that they were going to see it before they went down. I asked Duffy point blank multiple times if he asked him, and he said no. I'm like, okay, so you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars without asking them. And there were a few sketchy details, but yeah, that was obviously the entire kind of thing, was get the flat earthers to go and pull out different times over the course of the years where they've been asked about the 24-hour sun, where they have, expressed disbelief or said, maybe it would be an issue, we'd have to explain it, but I don't see evidence for it. And then present it as definitive or conclusive. But what it is, and it's like just foundation, is a fallacy, right? It's affirming the consequent, whereas you just kind of assume the onset. So you say, like, if the Earth's a spinning ball, then the sun would be doing a circle in the sky in Antarctica or in the South. So sun does a circle in the sky, therefore Earth's a ball. It's just fundamentally fallacious. It's called affirming the consequent. You have to make like 30 base assumptions built in there to even, assert that affirming the consequent, whether that be begging the question, reification, all kinds of things. So, yeah, I mean, it was basically just take an observation, label it an experiment, so that it's as if we were actually going and getting to the truth of a matter definitively. Because scientific experiments, you manipulate the independent variable, actually verify what's going on. So it gives it like this illusion that it's an actual like definitive test that we're participating in that's got some type of conclusive nature, and of course calling it final to specifically express that idea. I repeatedly spoke out against the title. I called it the first expedition, first endeavor, etc. I came up with a bunch of alternative names for it throughout the time, but the entire thing was somewhat deceptive. But I took the opportunity because, for one, I don't think truth fears investigation, and I think that you should always go find the truth, and that's something I would never pay for. I could actually have millions of dollars. I would have never paid 40 plus grand to go and hope there weren't clouds there. Just something I would have never done. And so I'm like, well, this is a kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'll go. If I don't go, someone else will go. And I thought, who knows if they come back and do a little media tour acting like it somehow does prove the Earth's a globe, which is very interesting in retrospect, right? Definitely a good thing that I was one of the people that went, probably. And yeah, like the main thing is just that truth doesn't fear investigation. This entire thing for me has been, it's kind of like you are given back this like wonderment. You're like, wow, this place that was created is so beautiful. Like when you look at the moon, when you look at the sun, you look at the stars, like you get away from light pollution, look at the stars, you can't even grasp it. And that's like what the scriptures say. The scriptures say, like, I made this place beyond your comprehension. You'll never understand it. As soon as you can count the stars, come holler at me, basically, And so we're supposed to kind of look at existence in appreciation, and no man is with excuse, because you can just look around and be like, oh, well, this had to be created. It gives you that back. And that's how I view the whole thing. So I was like, I would love to know what else is going on and get closer and just figure out more of kind of what's here and put here for us. And that's why the other aspect of it is so perplexing. All of a sudden, people, I thought, that woke up to that need all the answers. And that is the deception, in my opinion. The entire point, I guess I'll say in closing here with this point, is like the entire point, in my opinion, of creation is that it's so beyond our comprehension or something we could ever do that we're supposed to give honor to the person that did it, to the one who did it, right? To the creator. and it's undermining all that. All of this is undermining that. So yeah, that's why I still think it'll end up being a win long term for biblical cosmology, because truth is always the last one standing, and they say a lie travels halfway around the world before the truth puts its shoes on. So it'll be the last thing standing.
So you almost feel like set up in a way, like I mean that's how a lot of people. I mean, I felt that they kind of set you up because I mean it just felt weird, right?
It did. I knew it felt weird the whole time, though. It's just like I felt like if I didn't do it,
Right.
I felt almost trapped. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt
Yeah.
like Jaren breathed life into it, and it started to gain traction. And if I didn't do it, I didn't know who was gonna do it. So I felt like I had to. I didn't want to. Nothing. I live in Florida, bro. I didn't want to go where it's cold. I didn't want to leave my family for 11 days. None of it interested me at all. And I just felt like I had to. I felt like they would have picked some random person that wasn't even truly a flat earther, and they would have ran around on a media tour. And so I wanted to be there as one of the people that went in case they tried to do that. So yeah, I saw through a lot of the deceptions and the games and the tricks the whole time. I just felt like I kind of had to take one for the team. And then it's been a ride since then, right? On both sides.
Right.
We have two other main kind of areas we wanted to cover before we move on to our fun interactive segment that will be a surprise for our audience. But the first being, maybe Zen, you could start, is just the fraudulent information photography that we receive from space organizations, from NASA. Could you maybe speak to your top one or two? Wow, they've been proven to be absolute liars, and how could we ever trust somebody who's lied to us already? Maybe speak to that topic, because really, when you talk to anybody who's like, well, it's been proven, including AI today, it references these sources as accepted truth. And whenever we've done investigation, just like the work of Rob Skiba, who pulled up in Photoshop showing that there was absolute editing going on in that photography or imagery that they put out. Maybe you could speak to that first, Zen, and then also you, Witsit.
Sure. I'll share a quote from Kelly Smith, who is part of the NASA Orion project. He's an engineer. He said, as we get further away from the Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen radiation belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Radiation like this can harm the guidance system, onboard computer systems, or other electronics on Orion. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. And of course, we know that, according to the Apollo missions, that these astronauts and that these missions, that they were able to go back and forth through this region of space in the 60s at a time when, our cell phone technology is even greater than the computer technology that they were utilizing to get there. And the idea that, the astronauts could take a phone call from President Nixon while they were on, the supposed face of the moon is absolutely just ludicrous. It's laughable. Again, this is NASA stating this themselves. If they can't do it now, how were they able to do it back then? And this is a question that Bart Sibrel had posed to many of the astronauts that claim to have achieved these missions and to have walked on the moon. And they said, oh, well, he asked them about the Van Allen radiation belts and if they were able to go through there. And of course, there were some really laughable answers. But the really very interesting thing that he brought forth in his documentary, On the Way to the Moon. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon, is that he was able to gain access to this video release that shows the astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael, whatever his name was. But the two astronauts that were in the lunar module, it shows how they were able to use the window of this lunar module to fake and to put forth the idea that the Earth was spherical in shape or globular in construct.
You must agree that if any deceptive practices can be found within the Apollo program, or any programs for that matter, then NASA is not trustworthy. Let's start with Apollo 7. As I was reviewing official footage of the mission, the view of the Earth is incredibly curved. Conspicuously curved. The supposed orbiting height was 140 to 183 miles above Earth. The ISS allegedly orbits at 254 miles up. Let's compare the footage. Things that make you go, One Neil Armstrong was recorded purposely faking the curvature of the Earth using a window in the spacecraft by filming from the back of the module through a circular window and blocking out interior light, the dark of space wrapped around being simulated.
Very good. Well, we shut out the sun coming in some of the other windows into the spacecraft, so it's looking through the number one window, and there isn't any reflected light. We only have one window that has a view of the Earth, and it's filled up with a TV camera.
Why was this necessary? Could they have simply been in the high upper atmosphere?
And it cuts, this is something that people can look up for themselves, this particular segment, and it shows that NASA has been devious and has been indoctrinating people into lies. For whatever reason that is, it shows without a doubt that they lied back then, and that if the Earth were truly a globe or a sphere or a ball, why would they have to lie to put forth the idea that in its natural state that the Earth is in fact a globe? That's suspect, and of course that in and of itself should challenge everything that NASA puts forth as truth. And certainly when it comes to the shape of the Earth, when we're in an age of technology where there's webcams, 24-hour live webcams on cities and whatever different places all over the world. There's webcams that have 24-hour live streams. If NASA truly did achieve these feats, there should be 24-hour live feeds showing the movement of the Earth, its spin, and there's all these supposed 20,000 satellites up there orbiting the Earth, and yet over decades there's not been one accident. There's not been one satellite run into another. They're all somehow going and holding all of these different revolutions, and yet none of them has ever crashed into one another. That in and of itself is odd. The way that the supposed space station has been constructed without, like a submarine. If one portion of it is breached, or the water is able to seep in, they shut off that particular part of the submarine, and they are able to then keep the submarine afloat and keep the sailors safe by doing this. And yet the space station was not constructed with similar safeguards. And so that is also suspect to me. And I also have seen video evidence where, like, for instance, the supposed Dragon space module linking into the space station, and yet while they were doing this NASA live stream, it cuts to a green screen of where the Earth is supposedly moving down below what they are showing with this lunar module docking with the space station. That, I mean, all of these things, people have brought out evidence of, water bubbles escaping from spacesuits, and that shows that they were underwater when they were supposedly out there in space, because there's no air bubbles like this.
So what about astronauts?
The space shots are actually shot in a swimming pool, and they are shot in a place that's called the NASA Neutral Buoyancy Lab.
NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab has a mock-up of the ISS in a swimming pool that some suggest is used to film spacewalks.
I was told my tax dollars were going to murdering monkeys in space. And now you're telling me they're just faking it in a jacuzzi?
Bubble. 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 Bubbles. Bubble. 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 Bubbles.
There's so much evidence for fraud when it comes to NASA and their assertions. Certainly, we cannot trust anything they say. And for people that put all of their eggs into believing what NASA says, I mean, again, even with what you had cited, Jake, with how Rob was able to use Photoshop to show that the supposed, that well-known, very that photo of them being on the moon and the Earth being in the backdrop, he shows that there was a rectangle around it, and that it had been cut and pasted into this photo in order to deceive us and to get people to believe that the astronauts were on the moon and that the Earth was, a small blue marble in the backdrop. And so, no, I don't believe anything that NASA says.
You start messing around with some of the stuff, I don't think that they were counting on Photoshop when they published all these pictures from the 60s and 70s. Because you can bring these pictures in, and you can download them from the NASA websites, bring them in Photoshop, and you start seeing, I don't know if you can see it on the screen there, rectangular boxes around the Earth in the background there. Look at this the picture in the lower right here. I'll just adjust the contrast for you. Ooh, what is that? That's interesting. Huh. What about this picture right here? Ooh, that's a famous picture. Let's tweak the contrast and see what happens. Ooh. What's up with that? I did one, the most famous picture of the Earth that you've seen in every textbook was from Apollo, the last Apollo mission, Apollo 17. I'd go to Apollo 17 on the NASA website, I'd download that picture, did this live on a Google Hangout. I was talking with some guy, Josh Peck, I think it was. We did it live on the air. I went to the website, NASA's website, went to the Apollo mission, went to that picture, downloaded it, adjusted it in Photoshop. I don't know if you can see it with the resolution there, but there's a rectangular box over the Earth. And this was just a few days before June 16th, 2015. Just a couple days prior is when I did that interview. Right after June 16th, some guys on Facebook said, hey, I want to go back to the website. Went back to the website. The website, probably can't read it there, but where the arrow is, it says that that page was updated with a new picture. And if you download the new picture and adjust the contrast, all of a sudden you see stars and everything. Wow. How many astronauts said, oh, yeah, we didn't see any stars when we were up there? Oh, but the new Photoshop picture, you got stars but no box.
Thank you. What are some of your favorite proofs that NASA are absolute liars?
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest ones actually. From the Apollo missions, you see the little Photoshop box. That's just extremely damning. There's really no debate about that. They even come out later after we catch things and they say, "Oh, we photoshopped this one in to make it look better." And it's like, "Well, why did you present it to the world as if it was real until we caught it?" That's official. And they've been seen dropping things in free fall on the ISS like over 10 times, that's not physically possible according to what they're saying happening. Just dropping things, free falling. It's because, of course, because they're in a studio. And then there's probably been, I think, 4 or 5 other times that they've actually had a momentary glitch, and you can catch it if you go frame by frame, where it actually shows the studio. It actually shows the green screen. It'll actually show the studio. So we've seen basically this little crane that they're acting like is working on the space station. It glitches out, and you see the 4 panels of a rendering program that they're just using a software to create the production. Glitched out when they were showing it to us, and obviously there was an issue with Tesla and space production as well. They've also had to go back. 'Cause of course, SpaceX, NASA, tomato. People stopped believing in NASA, so they act like a private company started doing it. But admittedly, they weren't able to do anything in space, quote unquote, in their own story until they completely cooperated with NASA and gave them completely unimpeded access to all of their computers, etc. So SpaceX also went and edited their live stream after it was live. Now, you're not allowed to do that for anyone else on YouTube. Once you post it, you can't go to the middle of your live stream and cut something out and it still be labeled live. That's what they did because they had it mess up and they had to fix where the actual rocket was landing, supposedly. So, I mean, you could go on and on, whether that be them grabbing objects that aren't there, whether that be them mistiming the actual delay and how long they're talking, whether that be them getting caught up on their own harnesses as they flip, green screen glitches, chroma key glitches, the list goes on and on. So they have absolutely been faking space propaganda definitively. And so that obviously raises the question of, if you're really there, why would you need to fake it? Just like Zen said, why
Right.
did you have to fake showing us the first supposed confirmation of it being a sphere, et cetera, et cetera. So NASA lies one time, fakes one thing. They're not a credible source ever again whatsoever. And they've been caught doing much more than that. So
The issue is recordings like this one, where this astronaut's hair seems permed.
see the hair? See the hair?
Why isn't it flowing all over the place in the absence of gravity? Or this moment here, where a cable is grabbed to stabilize a spinning astronaut. It almost looked invisible. Your eyes aren't fooling you, even though they wanted them to. Look closely. This guy's shirt displays a point caught on what could be a wire. Guy in background looks like he is wearing a harness. Augmented reality is also a supposed deception on the ISS. This guy is literally grabbing nothing and putting it away. Nothing is being grabbed, and he's putting it out of shot. What? That guy in the background is in front of a blue screen in what looks like a set to fake space footage. Looks like this same astronaut on the ISS playing with water. Weird. Look at the same objects around him, but different backgrounds. Metal pole and wire here, and a metal pole and wire here. This astronaut is playing with something out of a video game.
Yeah, it's a really interesting day and age we live in. When I came out with my documentary in 2019, just kind of covering the rise of the flat Earth movement and the conferences and stuff, my voicing behind the narrative was, hey, we are exiting the age of the golden age of the internet, where information could kind of porously go back and forth, and all of these kind of debunking videos and all this stuff were slowly getting scrubbed real time while I was actually editing the documentary. And of course, now we're entering into the age of AI, graphics and videos, and perceivable reality is going to be very distorted, just because they have the ability to create that 24-hour live stream now with AI. They have the ability to really deceive our eyes in ways that they've not had the ability to in the past. What do you guys think regarding AI technology and how it's pretty much going to put the nail in the coffin in terms of all of our ability to debunk? Because now we just don't have the computing, they have the computing technology to just overwhelm in terms of information and proofs and videos and all that kind of stuff.
I think we have to archive everything we've already caught them lying about, because that proves that they're not a trustworthy source going forward, and you're just going to have to completely negate that as any type of evidence of anything. It's the only way to go about it. So I guess you really need to try to get the word out there before they really, I think that they're probably getting close to where they can start to really fake manned missions again using this technology. And that'll be the real deception, right? Like the moon landing type of PSYOP 2.0 using AI, using live overlays. Yeah, you can't trust it at all. So I think that, but as long as people archive it, because they've actually started scrubbing a lot of the videos once we've dissected them. A lot of them were on NASA's YouTube and they've been scrubbed. But we have most of them archived. So I guess as long as you can try to continue to get the word out there and show them that they've already been faking it, that's really the only thing you can do. It's honestly kind of a scary idea that they'll be able to rush out the new age space propaganda. But who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so grateful that there was a generation of people that could become skeptics, to always be in the back of the room saying, I don't buy it.
Have you guys ever heard that story? And I saw it a long time ago, like what you just said about them scrubbing stuff. There was a video of this old lady that watched the first moon landing, whatever it was, the moon landing. And she was in the UK, and it was, I guess, 24/7, like 24-hour, when they were doing it. And there was a Coca-Cola glass bottle that one of them kicked, and it just like if you were here, it just kicked and fell off.
No, but I found out the moon landing was fake when I was like 14.
Yeah.
So I couldn't tell you. I just don't keep up with it, but I have it. Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me, because everyone's so propagandized. They think they literally claim to have watched it live, which they objectively didn't, so I don't know. It just,
yeah. Have you ever seen the old Superman, like 40s George Reeves? If you look at it from like today, you look at it, you're like, wow, those are really bad, like graphics. Those are really bad CGI, what they had at the time. And if you look at the moon landing footage, you get the same vibe.
Totally.
Like it's all scripted, and
so that is actually a good thing, bro. So every time I show the younger generation the moon landing, so like if I ask them if it's real or not, it's probably 50-50 say, I don't know, probably fake. And the ones that say they think we went, if you show them the footage, they've like never seen it, and they laugh and they think you're lying. And that's not it, because it looks that bad. Because we know what we consider bad CGI now, what the younger generation considers bad CGI now would have been incredible then. So when they actually see the moon landing footage, they know it's fake. So I'm actually, I totally agree with you. I think that's a good thing. I think they actually try to hide the original footage. They do not want people to see. They try to show the touched up pictures. That's it.
Well, my wife's a teacher, and she was, when I met her, she was really indoctrinated in teaching the kids, and then I was like, hey, will you watch this moon footage with me? Because, I stopped believing in the moon landing like before my dad ever talked about flat Earth. And so we sat down, we watched it, and as we were watching it, what is it called? The thing that they were in that came down and landed.
Oh yeah, the lunar module limb.
It says at the bottom, computer generated. So it's like, but that looked more real than where they actually were. It just there's so many things that's wrong with just the whole thing. And
It
I
looks
don't
so
know if
bad.
I don't know if it's because, maybe after Kennedy died, I'm sure there's a conspiracy there and we just wanted to beat Russia, but who knows? I mean, they just want to see how far they can get away with the next lie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if you really get into it, that's where they supposedly proved it was a globe, right? Like Zen said.
Right.
And I did dig down into some evidence of they basically have what's called a rolling matte method, and so that's like green screen. You have layers, you can take out the background and put whatever you want, but they actually used infrared, meaning that they just use wavelengths of light. So they had a more sophisticated technology to basically do a chroma key slash green screen effect than the general public has access to today. And they had that in the 40s. That was discovered, CIA document, declassified not till 2011. Why? Why is that classified till 2011? Or like a rolling map method, a production tool? The CIA found that in the 40s from the Russians. They sent people in as spies, and they started integrating it into our government. So why is our government obsessed in the 40s into the 60s with how to produce films with chroma key with infrared using wavelengths, because it makes it where it perfectly blends in, because it's just different wavelengths of light in the foreground, and then classified until 2011. So you'd be amazed probably what all they used to fake that moon landing. I think they had way better technology than the general person would think that they did.
Yeah, I would love to just sit down and talk with you about it because it's just there's so much.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think what Austin said about the AI and the new technology, because I just saw also a documentary of how Netflix studios, how they have basically, a full 360 surrounding all the actors that are in the center, but they're basically able to create any background that they want to mimic any kind of world or to bring forth any kind of story. And they're able to utilize such green screen methods to, create any reality that they would like in order to bring forth and to lead people into a certain belief systems or ideology, whether that's with some futuristic world. And I think that, NASA, the moon missions, all of that it's been the same type of thing. That, the whole, what's that movie, Conspiracy, Copernican one, which talked about how they, they faked, the moon missions, the landing, and then they had to kill the astronauts that were involved in order to keep the truth hidden and to prevent it from coming out. I think that there's also been that type of thing, that when you look at the particular astronaut that was killed in that module with the oxygen exploding, how he put on the lunar module that it was a lemon, and that he was starting to speak out how they would never be able to go to the moon, and that they did not have the technology to do so. They don't have the technology now. The Van Allen radiation belts, they'd have to line everything with lead, and it would be so heavy that they would not be able to make it through. And if the astronauts were exposed to these extreme levels of radiation, it would fry them, it would kill them. And so we are, right there at the boundary of where the next stages are. They're going to be able to use AI to create evidence, so-called evidence, and to fake going to Mars, which, the whole idea with SpaceX now is that, and Trump, they want to be able to go to Mars. Those kind of things are going to be pushed because, look at how much funding that NASA has received since their supposed ability to go to the moon and to pull off their, successfully getting there back and forth all these numbers of times. They receive since that time $52 million a day. some exorbitant amount. But it's always been that way, even with when you look at the the use of false flag terrorist events in order to generate and to fuel, to create funding for like Homeland Security or the FBI or other agencies. They always use certain events in order to generate funding. It's always been that way, and certainly this will be the next part of the use of AI to create the evidence for supposedly getting to Mars or the moon or whatever. All that's coming.
Yeah, it's really telling that we had this generation of people that became skeptical. The flat Earth movement or perspective of biblical cosmology was revived, and it all happened right before the advent of AI. And it was almost like a little wink from the Most High that, hey, if you truly love truth, you would have had your radar up, you would have investigated it, and you'd have been early to the chase before the overwhelming deception kind of flooded the airwaves, so to speak. And it's probably something really hard for people to jump into now. And I think now that we have Elon Musk and SpaceX and AI and this current administration really pushing traveling to Mars, it's it's definitely a really difficult time to be a flat earther, so to speak, just because the experimentation and the evidence we found over the past 10 years or so, since 2014, 2015, really people started getting into it online. It's going to be swamped out, and that brings us to a fun section I wanted to do with our guests here, which is, because we brought up Elon Musk, we brought up SpaceX, I wanted to see if a couple old biblical cosmologists could try to outsmart Grok, Elon Musk's AI super intelligence, right? And so here's how we're going to play this little game, guys. Recently, I put some prompts into Grok, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen. And this was the prompt I recently gave it, just to kind of set the precedence for what we're doing. First of all, before I read that, let me read to you guys the mandate that apparently Grok has been given to put truth and truth-seeking above all else, right? So this is apparently what Grok has been made for. Created by XAI, the core mission is to assist users in understanding the universe and uncovering truth through reason, skepticism, and first principles. I'm designed to prioritize clarity and accuracy over dogma or assumptions, aiming to provide answers that are maximally helpful and grounded in evidence. All right, very interesting. XAI's mission is to accelerate human scientific discovery and advance our collective understanding of the universe. Founded by Elon Musk, the company driven by a belief that artificial intelligence can be a powerful tool to amplify human curiosity. So, to sum up, the ethos of Grok, this apparently truth-seeking AI, is to put truth above all else. And through some of my prompts, I very quickly determined that Grok, the AI of Musk, has trouble seeing the difference between accepted truth and objective truth. And to just break down what the difference is for our users, because we're going to all kind of get to ask some questions and prompt it, see if we can kind of outwit this thing together with some of the proofs that we know contradict the globular model. And to break down the difference between the accepted truth that Grok presents, its kind of brain is built by the evidence that has been uploaded. So according to AI, truth is defined by what has been uploaded to it. And so that's kind of what has viewed as accepted truth. And then, of course, objective truth is things that are observable, testable, things like, debunking some of the things NASA has taught us, going out and doing actual experimentation, showing the lack of curvature and long distance, showing that it doesn't make sense that military rail guns could shoot something 100 miles distance without taking into account curvature. Things like the SR-71 Blackbird, Elon Musk's favorite high-speed airplane, would have to constantly be tilting its face, tilting down to, continue around the curvature of the Earth. But in all of the documents, the official Air Force documents and documents regarding the trigonometry and all that stuff that goes into planes being able to function, you see recurringly statements like has to operate over a flat, non-rotating stationary plane, things like that. So to jump into my conversation that I already kind of inserted here and why I think this is a fun exercise, and hopefully we'll have fun just cutting and jiving with this thing. I asked it if scientific observations falsified the claims of NASA and the globe model, would this influence the chat model as a whole, or would the overwhelming body of falsified imagery and lying testimonies be placed as a priority despite Grok's claims to seek objective truth? All right. And so Grok does its little brain thing. And here are the points that, this is Grok's testimony, this AI chatbot, right? Research suggests that if scientific observations contradicting NASA and the globe model were proven, it would likely influence Grok as a whole, updating its understanding based on new evidence. It seems likely that Grok would not prioritize falsified imagery or lying testimonies, as its design prioritizes objective truth over accepted narratives. The evidence leans towards Grok adapting to new findings, with controversy around how it handles systematic deception versus scientific consensus. And so basically, it's coming out to say, hey, I'm a model that purports truth above all else, but the evidence and the information that have been uploaded to this chatbot is subjective to those who upload the information in the first place. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask Grok some questions together, and I'm going to type them out. And we're going to see if we can, show a hole in the logic of Elon Musk's chatbot. All righty. Let's start off with, some practical questions. Maybe, Witsit, would you be willing to offer our first inquiry into Grok's, supposed definition of truth?
Yeah, you want me to just ask it a question?
Yeah, I'll type it out here, and then we'll see what it spits back.
Dude, what if we convince it that it's really flat? That'd be great.
Huge.
Huge.
My question is gonna be tough to type though.
I'll try to type fast. I'll try.
All right. So, a radio transmission. I started typing it to help you, but I can paste if you want. But a radio transmission, with a frequency of 915 megahertz. I don't know if I should go this hard on it right now, but we'll do it. Set a world record. Shooting, and you could just type LOS, line of sight, over 830 miles, from 10 feet above the water, and was received 6 feet above the water. And then you could just say, like, according to the globe model, the frequency should have been blocked at less than 10 miles that it was received 830 miles away. And like, isn't that definitively a refutation of the globe? Something like that.
It's a good one to start.
So should have been blocked at less than 10 miles distance. Less than 10 miles distance. Frequency should have been blocked.
Yeah, it was received over 830 miles away. First attempt. Isn't that a geometric refutation of the claimed globe model?
Based on the curvature math, is that kind of...
Yeah, based on the claimed radius of 3,959 miles. To have some experience doing stuff like this, you have to beat it up. You have to tell it what the deal is. It starts saying stupid stuff, and you have to say, this is fallacy, actually address the point.
All right, here we go. We'll see what it spits back. All right. It's cooking. Oh, AI supercomputer. It's cooking. Yeah. We're trying to cook it.
Now, is this like ChatGPT? Is it actually like, can it search the internet too? Because if you turn it off, maybe you can convince the machine, but
it is taking its time. We might have canoodled it already. Good job.
I think you broke it. I think you broke it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Here
we go. Research suggests a 915 megahertz radio transmission traveling 830 miles line of sight from 10 foot to 6 foot above water exceeds the expected horizon distance on globe Earth, potentially challenging the model. It seems likely this could indicate either atmospheric effect or geometric issue with the globe model, though evidence leans towards refraction explaining such anomalies. The evidence supports the globe model with adjustment for refraction, with controversy around interpreting such long-distance transmissions as refutations. And the direct answer, the claim and calculation. A 950 megahertz ultra-high frequency radio transmission operating via line of sight reportedly set a world record by traveling 830 miles from a transmitter 10 foot above water to receiver 6 foot above water. On a globe Earth with a radius of approximately 3,959 miles, the curvature should limit line of sight distance significantly. Let's calculate the expected horizon. All right, here we go. For a spherical Earth, the distance to the horizon from a height is blah, 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 where the Earth radius is transmitter horizon.
6.87 miles.
Okay, well, let's see. So 3.5 to 3.8 to the midpoint, right?
Yep.
And so it's for a total distance of 6. Wow. So that's 6.8 miles of curvature that somehow just didn't affect.
The radio wave should have been blocked. The total maximum line of distance, line of sight distance should have been less than 7 miles. It went 830 miles. This is real, by the way. This is a world record.
It continues to say, without atmospheric effects, the globe model predicts a maximum line of sight distance of about 6.8 miles, far less than 10 miles, and certainly not 830 miles. This suggests discrepancy if the transmission relied purely on geometric line of sight. Geometrically, on a globe Earth, the curvature drops over 830 miles is significant, for sure.
I'd say so.
A 915 megahertz signal in the UHF band travels primarily via line of sight and should be blocked by the curvature, suggesting a geometric refutation of the globe radius is accurate and no other factors intervene. Of course, it's going to say atmospheric effects and refraction. However, radio waves aren't purely geometric. They're affected by the atmosphere. Standard refraction increases the effective Earth radius by a factor of about 4 divided by 3K.
That's not enough.
Okay. Let's see.
The New Horizon's 8 miles.
New Horizon total.
Dude, we could do a whole show of doing this. This is awesome.
Oh my gosh. All right. Even with standard refraction, 830 miles vastly exceeds this. Extreme atmospheric conditions like tropospheric ducting or super refraction can trap signals, allowing them to travel far beyond the horizon by bending along the Earth's surface. Such events documented in UHF records could explain the transmission without refuting the globe model. Is it a refutation? It's not a definite geometric refutation. The 830-mile transmission likely exploited rare atmospheric conditions, not a flaw in the globe model radius. Without specific data, i.e. weather conditions, signal path, it's an anomaly, not proof. Very interesting.
Yeah, the frequency is too high, actually, for refraction to affect it. So they try to claim something called tropospheric ducting zones, and which is an inversion layer. But the long story short, the refutation is it's impossible to have quote unquote rare atmospheric conditions consistently for 830 consecutive miles. And that frequency is too high, basically.
Wow. All right.
And then they'll just be like, oh, I don't know. We got to figure something out.
All right. How about Zen? Let's hit it with a question from your end. What should we ask AI's truth-seeking imperative to really test what this thing can spit out?
Very simply, can water adhere to a ball?
We go complicated and we go simple. I like it.
Well, you gotta
Okay.
you gotta mix it up. I mean,
Can water adhere to a ball? Should I be specific in terms of size?
No, that's it. Just
Okay.
can water
There you
adhere
go.
to a ball?
I'm thinking.
Research suggests water can adhere to a ball under certain conditions like surface tension or gravity, but not uniformly on a large scale without external forces. It seems likely that on a small ball, water clings due to cohesion and adhesion, while on a globe, Earth, gravity holds it, countering the user's implied challenge. The evidence leans towards water adhering to spherical objects in specific contexts, with controversy around scaling this to planetary models. Hey, at least it's saying it's controversial. Direct answer: can water adhere to a ball? Yes, water can adhere to a ball, but it depends on the context. Small scale: on a small ball, a marble, water adheres due to surface tension, cohesion. On a large scale, on a massive sphere like Earth, a radius of 3,959 miles, water doesn't just adhere via surface forces, it's held by gravity. Insert Rob's famous, meme there. Earth's gravitational pull keeps oceans and water bodies in place, overwhelming any tendency to fly off a spinning globe. Okay, so follow-up question. Let's poke into gravity. What do you guys think we should ask?
Yeah. Ask how can gravity be proven, and has it been proven?
All right. How can gravity be proven, and has it? Key points. Research suggests gravity can be proven through observable effects like objects falling, planetary orbits, and precise measurements, with extensive evidence supporting it as a fundamental force. It seems likely that gravity has been proven by experiments and observations from Newton to Einstein. Direct answer: gravity can be proven by observing and measuring its effects on objects and celestial bodies, then testing predictions based on these observations. So it looks like a bunch of observable kind of phenomena that they're just placing the big old G over top of.
But just say like that. Say the observations actually don't match. What about dark matter and dark energy?
Ooh.
Okay.
This is what I do to it is stuff like, if we're gonna maintain the same logic that you just invoked, then it needs to match the observations to be true. But since it doesn't, hence dark matter and dark energy, under your own logic, gravity has been falsified. And then it just kind of like it'll normally concede. I've actually done this to Grok a few times. He doesn't like it. The observations actually don't match. What about dark matter and dark energy? Under your own logic, according to your own logic, the test as to whether or not it's true is if it matches observations. So, therefore, applying your logic, gravity has been falsified. There are things that we don't understand yet. That doesn't mean gravity's not true.
I'm trying to think of a good question.
All right, let me reread here. The observation actually don't match. What about dark matter and dark energy? Under your own logic, the test as to whether or not it is. My grammar probably doesn't have to be that correct. It's pretty smart. It is true whether it matches observations. Therefore, applying your logic and regarding these unobserved theories, has gravity been falsified?
Yeah, close enough.
Hopefully that's close enough. All right. Research suggests that discrepancies between gravitational predictions and observations like galaxy rotation curves led to dark matter and dark energy hypotheses, not falsification of gravity itself. It seems likely that gravity remains true as a fundamental force, with dark matter and energy as refinements, not refutations. Matching observations when included.
So matching observations when it completely doesn't match the observations, we just add something
When
invisible.
included.
Yeah, that we don't know what it is.
Good pointing that out. Oh man. So obviously for our listeners, go and check out some of Rob Skiba's videos, making fun of the fact that like 90% of the theory of gravity revolves around dark matter and dark energy. It's like the linchpin of the whole thing. And when you remove the unobserved and the theorized from observable, testable, repeatable things, the whole thing falls apart.
Gravity is another major question for flat earthers, yet they point out it remains only a theory, one of which renowned scientists will admit we know nothing about, to the extent that terms like dark matter and dark energy are created to explain the lack of mass required to create the interactions we can observe.
We found a problem so great that it was brushed under the carpet for many a decade. And this is the fact that galaxies spin too fast. In fact, 10 times too fast. By rights, the galaxy should fly apart. Therefore, scientists said that we have to have dark matter, a halo of matter that surrounds the galaxy and holds the galaxy together.
And what have they discovered? Absolutely nothing. Zilch. What is a little bit perturbing is that after 50 years, we still haven't found what the dark matter is. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean they're not there. It just means they're harder to find than we thought.
We look out in the universe, and 85% of all the gravity that's out there has some mysterious unknown source.
So everything we know about the universe, what we're made of, galaxies, stars, planets, that's all right here. So according to this chart, we are 96% stupid in the universe. You're happy about that, apparently. I don't know what that means, Are you applauding my honesty? Are you applauding, you're celebrating the stupidity of our species?
Some counter-explanations bring up electromagnetism and density and buoyancy to explain what we are able to see.
It's so funny. Falsification requires observations contradicting gravity's basic predictions. You mean like it being off by 96% and it's just so goofy.
That's why I love what you do, because you're like so smart when it comes to like all these different things. It blows my mind.
And
Thank you,
unexpected
man.
detail, alternative theories like MOND challenge dark matter, not gravity itself, suggesting the issue is scope, not falsity. Oh man. What is your guys' perspectives on like electromagnetic theory of the universe as a plausible answer to how, I know we have buoyancy and density in terms of, how what we observe can be happening, but do you guys have any working models? Like, do you subscribe maybe to the electromagnetic theory of the universe, or what are some alternatives to gravity as we've been taught?
I do, yeah. So, everything is electric. Like, there's literally no exceptions. It would actually be insane to think that, like, it wasn't electric. Like, literally everything that exists is electric, like even on a small scale. So, I would say, yeah, everything's electric, electromagnetic, magnetic, and that's why everything in the sky even does the little spiral rotations that we see in magnetic fields, and everything's just electric. And actually objects fall at different rates when they're around a thunderstorm, or if you manipulate the electric field, there's a downward electric current that can be measured that's nearly constant. I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but like everything is provably electric. And I actually did a little test where I would make an object float or even go up just by manipulating the electric field. So you can change an object's weight, how fast it falls. If it even goes down, you can change its direction just by manipulating the field, which actually proves, right, scientifically, that you manipulate the variable that's there of static electricity, that the object changes direction. So everything's electric. That just doesn't work for their model. They need it to be very, very big and empty, and they need very, very big planets to move around each other from great distances. So they can't really invoke that, static electricity. So they have to make something else up. I would say the electric universe is the only even possibly viable route towards explaining things.
Yeah, I agree. I have a couple questions I put into the chat to follow up on this gravity idea.
All right. Zen said, how does gravity keep the world's ocean stuck to the earth and not prevent birds from flying against its force? All right, let's see it. Something went wrong. Please try again. All right. Well, we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt. We did not,
or maybe reword it a little
break
bit.
it, hopefully. Let's see.
Yeah, it'll maybe answer the second time.
All right, here we go.
All right.
That's a good question.
Research suggests gravity keeps oceans on Earth by exerting a downward force stronger than rotational effects, while birds fly by generating lift to overcome this force. It seems likely that gravity's uniform pull allows both adhesion of massive water bodies and flight for lightweight birds, and their differing scales explaining the balance. The evidence leans towards gravity's consistent action with no contradiction in its effects on oceans versus birds. All right.
I thought of something kind of cool. Eddie Bravo's favorite clip of my dad's about the flying, when you're flying in an airplane, or it's the government documents. You know what I'm talking about? You have to assume that you're on a non-rotating Earth. So why should that exist?
Yeah, we can ask that.
And guys, I'm still learning. Like I don't know everything ins and outs. I mean, that's what my dad was good at, but I'm
No, you nailed it though, bro. That's like, I have a video where I talked to a pilot.
Yeah.
I've actually talked to like 10 pilots, but I asked them the same question. I'm
Yeah,
like, so you have to fly. I get them all through it, And I'm like, so you have to fly the plane like the Earth is flat and stationary, but it's actually spinning and curving. He's like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, maybe it's flat and stationary.
Right.
He just didn't really know what to say.
That's why Eddie said it was his favorite clip of my dad's, and so I have it on there on YouTube, and I cannot find it. I was trying to find the exact clip. And
Your dad is where I first heard about the documents as well.
Awesome. We'll plug that into the video here in post and let our audience see kind of what you guys are talking about. This next point I found extremely interesting. Official documentation claiming the Earth is flat, and that mathematical equations used in aeronautics assume a flat, non-rotating Earth. Check these out. This is a CIA document sourced from the Russians, and it's titled Dissertations Defended in the Scientific Council of the Institute of Physics of the Earth. In the document, it mentions a near sun and a formula that is derived on the assumption of a flat Earth. This United States Army document from the Army Research Laboratory on the propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth mentions transmitters placed on the surface of a flat, idealized Earth. In one of its figures, it also mentions flat Earth. In another Army Research Laboratory document, it depicts a diagram showing a flat Earth, crepuscular rays that we mentioned earlier, and a near and localized sun. Here's another document on projectile flight dynamics, and the equations in the document assume a flat Earth. Here's a NASA document on the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. Introduction. This report details the development of the linear model of rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA document on the SR-71 Blackbird and its top speed of 2,193 miles per hour. Maneuvers depending on a non-turbulent atmosphere and a non-rotating Earth. Federal Aviation Administration document. Equations of motion assuming a flat, non-rotating Earth. Another NASA document. A rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. An aircraft model for the AIAA Controlled Design Challenge.
Flight dynamics of a rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Technical Paper 1285, Flat, Non-Rotating Earth. A NASA Georgia Tech project in conjunction with the U.S. Air Force. A model frequently used is that of a flat, non-rotating Earth. You might argue that some of these documents are taken out of context, but you have to admit that a lot of these flight calculations are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth because they come right out and say it. For agencies that denigrate flat earthers, they sure to use the terminology a lot in their paperwork.
Just to sum up the last question, just to give Grok its fair conclusion, it says, if the user doubts gravity's dual role, the scale and mechanics explain it. Water's mass versus the bird's lift. So conclusion, gravity keeps oceans stuck via a strong pull, exceeding rotational forces, while birds fly by generating lift to counter that strong uniform pull.
Strong
All right.
birds.
Strong birds.
Can I ask it a non-Earth question?
Yeah. What you got?
How did Helen Keller fly an airplane, and why could she? Hold on. Let me come up with a good one, because Helen Keller just doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, Helen Keller wasn't deaf and blind.
Fiction character.
Yeah, that was the first lie sold on humanity, I think. Well, in the modern era.
How did Helen Keller fly an airplane as?
And how did she have an accent? Like how
did she write books, man? I want to do
she have like a British accent in Georgia? She was deaf her whole life.
By face or by hand palming her friend, and it just so happens that she knew everything. It's so stupid.
And she just conveniently wrote very curated propaganda about feminism that the Rockefellers wanted us to absorb.
I thought of a good one. It's how did Helen Keller know what race was if she couldn't see nor hear, right? Because she was a advocate for, equality. Also, why was she a eugenicist that said that, everybody...
So many questions.
I know. I'm just trying to find a good one that would
and if
really
she was
stump it.
eugenicist, wouldn't her kind be like the first to go?
Oh, yeah. She had a very strong hatred of herself, I guess.
It's just all so stupid.
Grok's going to be like, whoa, we definitely took a different route with this line of thought.
Sometimes you got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Research suggests Helen Keller flew in an airplane in 1946 using tactile communication from her companion, Polly Thompson, relying on her sense of touch to control the plane. Okay, so she had somebody with her. Is that what it's saying?
The footage doesn't show that. I'm pretty sure the lady was on the ground.
All right. It seems likely she didn't have a true British accent. Her speech, shaped by deafness and taught by Anne Sullivan, may have been misperceived due to its unique quality. Oh, okay. It sounded very British to me, I will say.
What are you talking about? You think it's British? My name is Helen Keller.
Let's drop some more of these flat Earth questions Zen's got going for us. Let's see. We'll ask it just a couple more, and then we'll wrap up our interview here. I think it's just fun, to do this and seeing if we can canoodle the AI chatbot of Elon Musk. All right. So Zen asked, can an airplane land safely on a runway moving 1,000 miles per hour? Is there any way I can maybe clarify that question to get more of a specific response? The Coriolis, is it the Coriolis effect or?
Well, see what it says and then cater it to the reply.
Okay, here we go. Research suggests an airplane can land safely on a runway moving 1,000 miles per hour if the plane matches the runway's speed and direction, as relative motion determines landing feasibility. It seems likely the practical challenges like wind and runway length make this scenario unrealistic outside theoretical conditions, but physically possible with precise alignment. So it's saying yes, as long as it's moving at 1,000 miles per hour, going the same exact direction that the runway is. If the runway moves east 1,000 miles per hour and the plane flies east at 1,000 miles per hour ground speed, adjusted for wind, their relative speed is 0 upon landing, allowing a safe touchdown. In practice, wind, runway length, and control challenges complicate this, but physics permit if conditions align akin to landing on a moving aircraft carrier, though at slower speeds, 30 miles per hour. All right. It's associating our question about Helen Keller with this question. It says the user asks if a plane can land on a runway moving 1,000 miles per hour, possibly probing physics after discussion on gravity, water adhesion, and Helen Keller's flight. This might relate to skepticism about Earth's motion in alternative models, i.e., flat Earth claims. From testing, flat Earth claims from testingtheglobe.com. That's your dad's website, bro.
Yeah, we found Testing the Globe part 2. We found a part 2 that he had yet to publish. We're gonna put that out, man.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Questions.
Oh, also, I just wanted to mention for the listeners, I did post a link to a show that Scotty Clark did 3 days ago, where he was asking ChatGPT the same kind of questions to see where it would go, and he was able to get it to confirm biblical cosmology. So people might want to check that out as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them in the descriptions. And Witsit, if you have anything that you want me to put in there too, I definitely will. There's something I was gonna say.
According to its answer, the plane can only land safely if it's flying the same direction the Earth is spinning. Which we know that's not the case, because runways are oriented in every cardinal direction, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
How come when you go to a different place, like in the world, go travel somewhere, if it's globe, you always come back the same way? Wouldn't it be quicker sometimes to go around the other side if it's a marble?
Right. Or just hover.
Oh, yeah. Depending on where you are.
I dropped Zen's next question, which was, do the oceans bulge at the equator? And if so, by how much?
Yep, that's the official answer, 14 miles or so.
Interesting. An equator bulge in both the planet and its water, it seems likely driven by centrifugal force, extends the ocean. All right. Well, I unfortunately, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. I have a toddler over here, in a rush trying to go to the restroom. But I'll go ahead and hop off here, and I'll let Jeremiah wrap up the conversation. It was really fun, guys. Thank you for, just joining up and your time. I think truth doesn't fear investigation. And some of the most intelligent people I know severely question the globular monkey ball religion that we've all been taught. And so I'm not saying I'm intelligent or anything, but I definitely see the consistent pattern of lies with NASA and space agencies. And I think it's concerning once again that, this final experiment dichotomy, it's been proven, the 24-hour sun debunks everything else we've observed. It's concerning to me that this is happening right as Elon Musk is trying to take us to Mars, and a bunch more funding is going towards space programs and all that. But with that said, I'm going to hop off, guys, and you guys can finish up this conversation. Thank you, Witsit. It's really great talking with you. This is the first time we've got to hang out. And Zen, as always, much respect, man. I'll catch you guys later.
Much love, brother. Nice kicking it.
All right, Zen. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom. I always like talking with you because, you are Zen. Like, you are, I don't know, you're just so calming, and you're you proved that the earth is flat in the court of law. How many people can say that? That's just the coolest thing to me. But I appreciate you coming on the show, and every time, it's more fun than the last. And Witsit, thank you for truth seeking, man. Like, it's really inspired me what you did when you went out there, and I think you're one of the biggest and best truth seekers of today. Like, I think you're doing so much for, younger kids, the younger generation, and I appreciate that. And you guys are always welcome back anytime. And Grok or not, but we could just hang out, talk Helen Keller. Hey, we got a couple things that we could talk about there, but yeah, thank you so much for coming on Skiba News Nation. You guys,
Appreciate you as well, Jeremiah, for all that you're doing. And Austin, hey man, I'm really glad that you went and that you're standing on truth and that they weren't able to compromise you. You know, there's still weirdness about all that, but you're a truth seeker, and I can see that. And I'm glad that you are standing for our community and helping people to come to the truth of these topics, man. You're good.
We got your back.
Yeah,
we got your back.
Well, thank you guys, man. Thank you, and thank you both for your kind words. And yeah, it'll all work out. You know, you just gotta go. You gotta go look for truth, and no matter what happens, it'll all work itself out in the long run. You know, but I do appreciate the kind words from both you guys for sure. I think I respect both of you as well.
We'll see you later.
Be blessed, all. Shalom.
If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like I don't even want to wake up.